Members, I call to order the Public Works Subcommittee meeting. So let's get ready. Please be seated. Members, it's already past our scheduled meeting time. We have a quorum. Thank you for attending the Public Works Subcommittee meeting. This is the first meeting in 2018. I wish everybody good health and Happy New Year. In 2017-18 legislative year, as of the last meeting, we already vetted 6 items with a total commitment of $7.7483 billion. We have 6 papers on the agenda for discussion. Items 1 to 3 are items that have not been deliberated or not yet finished being deliberated on at the last meeting. And we also have new papers submitted by the administration as items 4 to 6 on the agenda. These 6 funding proposals involve the funding commitment of altogether $15.2782 billion. If all proposals are passed by the subcommittee, the total approved items will be 12, with a total commitment of $23,260,000 or $26.5 million. Apart from land appropriation and the computerization programs, totaling $2.6 billion and $74 million, the total public works commitment amount will amount to $20.3525 billion. May I remind members that if there is any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to items being discussed today, please disclose the nature of interest before you speak in relation to Rule 83A of the ROP. I also like to remind members in relation to the voting requirements where direct pecuniary interests are involved in Rule 84 of ROP. Now, we're still discussing PWSC paper number 23 about feasibility study on Route 11 between North Lantau and Yuen. Members are invited to upgrade the project to Category 8 at an estimated cost of $87.7 million MOD prices. We began discussing this paper at the meeting of the 13th of 2017. We'll continue with the deliberation, and for public officers attending the meeting for this item, we have the same attendance list. I'm not going to read it out again. At the last meeting, 14 members already asked questions in relation to the item, and 3 of them already started a second round, and I will now invite members. Let me check the list. Who will be speaking for the first round? Ms. Claudia Mo, 4 minutes. Yes, Dr. K.K. Kwok. Well, I asked some questions. I wrote them out last time, but at 11:38 this morning, we were given papers totaling over 300 pages. I don't think this is conducive to our discussion, because these papers totaling 300 plus pages weren't issued until 6 hours before the meeting. I think this will pose great difficulty for us and for the future deliberations by the Finance Committee. I don't think this is the right time to discuss the paper. If the administration respects us, I think that for Route 11, members should be allowed to read through the 300 plus pages of papers first, because at 11 this morning I was attending the Welfare Services Panel meeting. I don't see why we should do things in a rush. I don't see any urgency in this matter. So first of all, Chairman, I'd like to ask the administration not to play this trick on the Legislative Council, not to issue a 300 plus page paper right before the meeting was held. And we also have other funding items on the agenda. Why don't we postpone the discussion of this item and give way to the second item on the agenda first? Dr. K.K. Kwok I think is referring to a feasibility study report compiled in 1998. Well, the paper is served for reference because the discussion today on Route 11 is something different from the last report. I recall last time it was Mr. Eddie Chu who asked for this paper for reference. But let me remind the administration that perhaps they could give us the papers earlier. And for Dr. K.K. Kwok's questions, I see that the administration has also given us some responses. I heard Dr. K.K. Kwok's views, but as chairman of the subcommittee, I believe we should continue with the discussion of this item. And if you have questions, please fire away. Mr. Diju, I'd like to follow up on the matter. The report was compiled or issued in 1998, as Chairman you put it. I'd like the administration to explain it. The last meeting was held in mid-December. It's been such a long time since. Why did it take the administration so long? Well, the administration should perhaps also explain to us. They could have given us the report much earlier, given it's a 1998 report. Yes. Thank you, Chairman. As we mentioned in the reply, this is on the members' request. After the last meeting, our colleagues spent some time in retrieving the report because the report was made in 1995. It was completed in 1998. As we pointed out in our reply, since the report was made 20 years ago, in relation to the substance of the report and the recommendations therein, it may not be suitable in the present circumstances. So we don't think members need more time to really peruse the report.
And our colleagues can give a simple briefing to members about this report. I don't think you need to report because this is indeed a 20-year-old report. And well, why is it that they only provided us this report this morning? I also agree with Mr. Eddie Chi. Since this is an old document, I don't think you should have taken so long, because our last meeting was held on the 13th of December, and you could have, submitted the papers earlier. I'd like to remind the administration once again that they should provide us with the papers within a more reasonable period of time. So I propose that we will, put this on record. Let's go back to our normal discussion. I think it should be Ms. Claudia Mo's term. Your first round, 4 minutes. Chairman, I remember to have spoken already, but you say this is my first term. I don't mind. Well, that's what is shown on the screen. I always thought that Route 11 was part of the East Lantau development. But when I look more closely, I realize that it's not so. It's totally irrelevant. You're only proposing to provide a third, link to Lantau. I'm worried that in the last few years, we have so many mega projects, the XRL, the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge, the SCL, and so on. I think we have been bombarded with so many of these projects. The third link to Lantau, is it absolutely essential? Because going forward, we still have the East Lantau development. You haven't worked out the details on that yet. Perhaps the proposed route may not be the most optimal. Why don't you wait until you finalize on the East Lantau development? We have so many infrastructure projects ongoing. You seem to be giving the impression that you just want to, carry out these projects for the sake of carrying out projects and create an illusion of prosperity. Is that really necessary? Where is the urgency? And also my question is, why is it that you don't do it at the same time, when you plan the development of East Lantau before you come and tell us about Route 11? I think earlier other members have also asked a similar question. I remember that I've asked similar questions. Well, other members have asked similar questions. And I'm going to record it's the first time that you are speaking. Undersecretary. Thank you, Ms. Mo. We are proposing the feasibility study for Route 11, and this is indeed necessary. And we've explained in paragraph 11 that to embark on such a major project, a lot of work will need to be done. We would like to first conduct a feasibility study, and pending the results, and if we were to proceed in further, there's a lot of site investigation and detailed design to be done yet. And at every stage, we'll have to come back to LegCo and explain to the public and ask for funding approval. As to whether or not we have to wait for the completion of the 2030 plus study. At the last meeting, we pointed out that Route 11 is actually necessary in anticipation of the projected development of North NT and the increase in traffic demand. So there is a need to actually proceed with this route. And we hope members will therefore support our funding proposal so that we will be given the opportunity to proceed with the feasibility study for Route 11. What is the estimate now? This time we are asking LegCo for 87.7 million. So this is only for the feasibility study. Ultimately, what do you think will be the total cost? For Route 10, it was 22 billion. How many billion will this Route 11 cost, according to your estimate? Chairman, since the old figures, that was actually 20 years old, and all the planning parameters have now changed. So in this feasibility study, we need to start from scratch and begin the feasibility study and see whether we can come up with a rough estimate. But today I wouldn't be able to give you an answer as to what the rough estimate will be. Dr. Chen Chung Tai, your second round, 3 minutes. Thank you. The Bureau is saying that there's an urgent need to proceed with the feasibility study because by 2036, population in North NT will increase by 500,000. A week ago, there was a traffic collision at the Tai Lam Tunnel, which cost, people living in Tuen Mun and Yuen Long, namely Northwest NT. I think for the traffic problem in the area. Now, if the feasibility study is only done, with reference to the projected population increase, will you at the same time look at Tuen Mun Highway, Tai Lam Highway, and Ting Khao Bridge for the growth in large vehicles? How do you arrange for the alignment? Because we shouldn't just be looking at the numbers. We should also consider the question of traffic safety, and there should be a more comprehensive consideration. Because of this major incident, the residents once again are very concerned. So I'd like to know whether or not this is also one of the considerations that you would take into account when you conduct a feasibility study. I'll defer to our colleagues from the TD. Mr. Lam Sao Sung, Deputy Director. Could somebody switch on the mic for Mr. Lam? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chang. The feasibility study on Route 11 will cover different types of vehicles, whether it's private vehicles or larger commercial vehicles, they will all be covered. So our study will be comprehensive, taking a look at different types of vehicles, the growth in numbers of the different types of vehicles. Dr. Chang? In Route 10, it's detached from the 2030 plus project. And this is what the government said in the supplementary information. Now, for Tuen Mun Highway and Tai Lam Tunnel? Is it because in the past we had not expected there was so many, container trucks and heavy vehicles traveling to and fro? And now that we also have the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge and so on coming on stream, the growth in heavy vehicles may actually be more than we originally expected. You shouldn't just tell us that you will cover different types of vehicles. In terms of urban planning, would you, show more concern about this? The residents are very concerned. Ms. Spoon. A simple answer is that the vehicular flow will certainly be looked at in the feasibility study. Mr. Yu Si-wing, 4 minutes, your first round. Thank you. I think the alignment of Route 11, it will start from Shou Kun Fat to Tuen Mun Highway. And for Tuen Mun Highway, it is already very congested at the moment, especially during peak hours. So have you considered other possible alignments? Since this is only a feasibility study, is this the only alignment that you have chosen? Or could you, provide for a bypass going to Tai Lam Tunnel and the Teng Kau Bridge? Wouldn't that help, reduce the pressure on the Tuen Mun Highway? Have you considered that scenario before you would proceed with the feasibility study? Or is it that you've already, decided on this alignment? Mr. Lam from the TD. Thank you for the question. The alignment for Route 11, as shown in this plan, is only a conceptual, alignment. We understand that people in different districts have different needs, but in the actual study, basically for Northwest NT, given that there will be a substantial growth in population, we want to see how we can help, relieve the pressure on the Tuen Mun Highway, Teng Kau Bridge, and so on. So the detailed arrangements will depend on the outcome of the detailed study. For this part of the plan, it's only a very rough alignment. In other words, what Mr. Yu proposes will also be covered in your study. So you already do you have one preference in mind, or is it not the case? So given that the projected increase in population in Northwest NT, this alignment is only hypothetical. But in the end, when will you be able to give us a firm answer? We're spending several tens of millions of dollars. The objective is to find, an option, or is it that you already have a preferred option? So what exactly is your position? Thank you, Mr. Yu, for the question. Right now, we don't have any preference. We're not saying that this definitely should be the alignment. We like to reiterate that for this project, we would like to cope with the projected growth in Northwest NT and the additional traffic that it will entail. In the whole study, we'll be looking at the alignment and the areas which this alignment passes through, and see whether there are other, transport needs. In Shou Kun Fat, there might be a need. So tentatively, we will look at this and see whether we can provide for a bypass going up to. So regarding the detailed alignment and the possible linkages with other highways, we will give members more details. What about the cost? If you have more options, the cost will be higher. Are you sure that the $80 million would be sufficient? I think it should be sufficient for the study itself. We've already, allowed for some contingency fees already. Chairman, once we have some preliminary results for this study. We will consult the relevant district council and electrical members. Okay, please ensure there will be sufficient consultation. Mr. Jonas Ho, 3 minutes. Basically, Chairman, I support this feasibility study. But according to my observation, Route 10 and Route 11 are not that different. I note that regarding the financial implication in paragraph 12, we're going to spend $87 million since Route 10 and Route 11. Basically not very different in terms of the alignment, except that Route 11, the alignment for Route 11 is more crude. For Route 10, we have a more detailed plan. So regarding site investigation and contingency fees and so on, some of them have already been we can make use of the findings of the earlier studies because the soil condition will not change. So I wonder whether or not there is a possibility for some of these expenses to be adjusted downwards. I'm referring to 87 million. As I said, Route 10 and Route 11 are not very different in terms of their alignment.
So I've actually forgotten what the difference is. I can't find it in the paper. So that's a question for the department. Mr. Zhong, Director of Highways. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Ho, for your question. When we constructed Route 10, we conducted a feasibility study. It is true that we have some geotechnical data available, which we will refer to in our current exercise. As for the alignment of the two routes, it's true, if you look at the plan, the alignments are similar. In our feasibility study, we will make use of the latest development parameters, based on which we will study the proposed alignment, which is similar to the Route 10's alignment. But as other members also mentioned just now, are we going to follow the results of the last study? That may not be the case. So the recommendation in the report may not conclude that we have the same alignment. Because of the developments in the past decade, we need to do the study afresh. In 1995, 96, 97, we talked about building a exhaust-free or emission-free city in Hong Shui Kiu, and there was some noise about acquisition of land in Hong Shui Kiu. And earlier, in the past, the alignment of Route 10 was clear. Why can't we make it clearer? Because at present, this plan is a bit vague. I think they have already answered this question again. The study was conducted, the last one was conducted 20 years ago. The demographics and the economic activities in the future will be very different. So we need a fresh study. And according to the administration, they have a very preliminary proposal on the alignment. So the finalized version may be different. What about pricing? Any room for reduction? Director, about the factors pointed out by Dr. Ho, we already gave it a thought, and we also have contingency. And if necessary, they would be used. Ms. Tanya Chan, second round, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I thought I already had many rounds. Chairman, you may recall at the last meeting, we kept asking the administrations, the bureaus, the departments, whether they agreed that it has to do with the 2030 plus. And the question actually came from all members from the political spectrum, because you're moving the whole population to Lantau, and the other day the official said that it will be moved to the urban district or the city. And then Dr. Chang Chung Tai asked whether we share the same definition of the term. And so if you still need to use Chiang Mai Highway as well, you are not really helping, because nobody would take a longer route. And last time, Mr. Cheung, the director, in answering our question on pricing, said that the cost would be some $22 billion. But according to the paper, by 2022, for the south section is about 11 billion, and the north section 4 billion. Even 20 years ago, you had this estimate. Now you are seeking funding approval for a feasibility study. You need to tell us the ballpark figure you have in mind. Even if you don't take inflation into account, it's been 20 years, you need to tell us how much, because definitely it will not be less costly. I think this question was also asked at the last meeting. I believe at present they're unable to answer us. That is why we need to have a feasibility study. Well, but they are not able to answer our questions. You may recall last time we grilled them on the traffic volume assessment. You may recall, Chairman, they are unable to prepare estimates for the section closer to us, and that is why they need a feasibility study. But that's very simple. We have the 2030 plus traffic infrastructure and transport review. This is done by the transport department or the planning department, and according to their study, it seems that they also have an estimate. That is, they plan to make use of the extra capacity of the road during non-peak hours. So that means the administration hasn't been honest with us. They are afraid that we might not approve the funding. Are you really relying on the feasibility study to prepare the traffic flow estimates? Mr. Lam, please be brief. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Chan, for your question. We responded to previous questions. We understand the members' concern, but we need a basis on which we work out the VC ratios. About the actual alignment and the intersections, we have yet to finalize the proposal. So it is difficult, therefore, to have any estimates with a reference value. Next, Ms. Leung Chi-Chung, second round, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, Ms. Claudia Mo said something which really alarmed me. She asked whether this could be delayed. Well, we all know that for Yuen Long and Northwest NT, whenever there is a traffic accident, the tailback would take hours to dissipate. And at the moment, the road network is already saturated. You want to complete it before 2036 or something? Well, but if it is further delayed, then by 2023, not to mention 2036, the residents won't be able to leave Yuen Long for urban districts. So if they're planning to get in the way, I think that they should get a better idea of the situation. I agree with your study. Now, we have questions about the study. I think you should include our concerns in your study. For example, for the proposed alignment, if it's joined with the Lantau highway, then you'll only be pushing back the bottleneck, because as you can imagine, they have a district population of several hundred thousand already, together with our district population in Yuen Long. The traffic volume will be huge. you should not confine it with what's said on the paper. You should not only use the blueprint of Route 10, because this will be a drawback. If you are conducting a feasibility study, you should do a comprehensive one to really help residents living in Northwest NT and also residents in Lantau. The study will be completed by 2020, say. Is it the first or second half of 2020? You didn't make this out. Thank you, Chairman. According to the paper, the study, with funding approval, can be initiated in the first half of this year for completion in the middle of 2020. So exactly 2 years? 2 years for the study, right? 28 months. And we'll also take the time to do consultation on the preliminary findings of the study. If it takes 28 months altogether, you should also consult members here as part of your study. Well, I think they're here to consult members on your views. First round, Mr. Lau Kwok-fan, 4 minutes. Thank you. Chairman, I support the study. I think it should be conducted as soon as possible. Although we still have capacity for the existing road work, it will reach capacity very soon. Because for Hung Shui Kiu, Yuen Long South, there are major developments, housing developments. For NT South, NT East, the example we see is that we've been relying on the Tolo Harbour Highway for a long time. Even if you widen the highway, you have 3 or 4 lanes. In the Sha Tin Taipo section, there are still bottlenecks. No matter how wide the highway is, there will still be traffic congestion. For NT East, they're only relying on Tolo Harbour. There are no new studies on new major roads, unlike this one. So for Hung Shui Kiu, Yuen Long South, in the future, NT East as well, and even the places surrounding the NT Northern Link, Sun Tin, etc., traffic may be diverted to use Tai Lam Tunnel, which will cause the route to reach its capacity very soon. Because for Northeast NT, my observation is that many residents in North District nowadays will take either the bus or other means of transport to go via Tai Lam Tunnel and also Western Harbour Crossing to reach the city. I don't know whether you have taken this into account. Or are you just focusing on Hung Shui Kiu or Yuen Long South? Have you taken into account NT East? Because apart from Tolo Harbour, there is no other strategic highway. Have you taken this into account? Who would take the question? Mr. Lam? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Lau, for your question. For Northeast NT, you mentioned Tolo Harbour Highway and Taipu section. First of all, for Taipo Road, Sha Tin section, we do have something in the pipeline. Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes, the member is aware of that. We will be applying for funding to widen the road. And further to the north, the Fanling roundabout, we also have road improvement works. As we understand the concerns of the district, and on a broader scale, for the 2030 study on major and infrastructure roads, we are going to review all the major and trunk roads in Hong Kong. and also future developments and how infrastructure can tie in with the future developments. You haven't answered me whether you have taken the traffic volume into account, because in North District, some traffic already diverted to go via Thailand Tunnel. Apart from Hong Shui Q, have you taken into account the population in NT East, NT Northeast, with a district population of 400,000 plus? Do you think that they will stay in the Tolo Harbour or this side? In the 2030 study, we'll take a comprehensive approach, be it NT Northeast or NT Northwest, in terms of population growth and the supporting road infrastructure. There will be a comprehensive review. In other words, some traffic will be diverted. Some drivers may choose to take the western route, but have you taken into account? I think his answer is that the feasibility study will also factor in cross-district traffic. That the answer is yes or no one. Well, I think that they have indicated with body language that they will take this into account.
Mr. Chen Chi-chun, your second round, 3 minutes. Thank you. Chairman, I think today, or even at the last meeting as well as today, we've heard that there are many questions which the administration cannot answer. They are telling us that so long, they're saying that please let us proceed with the study. After that, we'll be able to answer your question. It's not a question whether we support the building of Route 11. But if you look at the supplementary paper, the first paragraph, of course they admit that Route 11 is actually, derived from the concept of Route 10. But since Route 10 was planned more than 10 years ago, it may not be compatible with present planning. If you ask them how much it costs, they will not tell you. You ask them about the detail alignment, they won't give you an answer. They say they would need to look at the latest, planning parameters, and they need to conduct further studies. In other words, give us the money now to proceed with the feasibility study first. So far, we have not yet amended the procedure in the FC. Otherwise, we won't be able to answer questions at the FC meeting. But if we ask the questions at the FC meeting, Chingkenpo would again say that we'll be repeating the same old question. Perhaps I will ask a simpler question. According to your paper, the alignment is represented by a dotted line, but the final alignment will vary a lot, will very much different from the dotted line. Since 2000, the southward section of the Route 10 along the northwest east of coast of Lantau, linking up with Penny Bay. And then in 2002, the southern section doesn't go through, Penny Bay. So, in other words, the alignment could change a lot. People are worried that it will not only link up with North Lantau, eventually may also link up with Southern Lantau and also link up with the artificial island. So today, could the administration promise that the dotted line in this paper is it your final, decision, and that it will not be further extended to Southern Lantau? Mr. Lam. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chan. For Route 11, as we've explained earlier, is intended to cope with the projected population growth in Northwest NT. But the overall traffic demand, as I said, in the 2030 plus study, we will take a comprehensive look at the traffic demand. So in the 2030 plus project, we will be exploring how we can have strategic roads to tie in with the overall transport infrastructural needs. Chairman, I don't think he's answered the question. I'm saying that for Route 11, it can be further extended and lengthened. Could you explain whether that is so, Mr. Chen? Even for existing roads, when the population increases, when the economy develops, extension, there are many examples of roads, which have to be extended. So I don't see how they will be able to answer your question. You say it's a dotted line today, and definitely the alignment should be exactly this alignment in future. Let me put my question again. The government now has a plan for Route 11, and this is what they're telling us. And, well, they've already said that the consultant may propose a different alignment. So if you're going to build other trunk roads, that's a different story. Mr. Lam? I'll be brief, Chairman. At this very moment, the northern and southern section of the connection point for Route 11 is shown in our plan. But in the 2030 plus study, in that study we'll be looking at Route 11, the role played by Route 11, and we will take a global look at the transport demand or transport need at the time. As to whether or not by then we may need to extend some of the roads, that would be looked at in that future study. Mr. Lau Kok Fan, your second round, 3 minutes. First of all, I'd like the administration will answer my question with body language because it cannot be put on record. Please just tell us whether the answer is yes or no, and be specific. I quoted the example of total channel, total highway. No matter how, even if you widen total channel, by the time you come to Sha Tin, there will be congestion. For Route 11, again, it will connect with Chiang Mai Bridge, even when you go out to the urban areas. If you look at the Chiang Mai Bridge capacity now, at certain hours, it is already saturated or close to saturation. So I'd like to ask whether or not for Chiang Mai Bridge, even if we have built Route 11, will the Chiang Mai Bridge be able to cope? Mr. Lam. Thank you. The Chiang Mai Bridge. Actually, in our earlier reply to members' questions, we've already said that the Chiang Mai Bridge has spare capacity at the moment. For the study regarding Route 11, as we said last time, we would be reserving some space to see whether in future we may need to, that is for Route 11, when it links up with Lantau Highway, how we look at the traffic situation for Lantau and Ching Yi. So it will increase the capacity for Chiang Mai Bridge. Of course, the population would have increased, but I think without Route 11, when people need to go to Ching Yi or Kowloon, they don't need to go through Chiang Mai Bridge. They can take Route 3 or go through Ting Kau. If we have Route 11, more people will be using the Chiang Mai Bridge together with the increasing population. And it's not just Hong Shui Kiu or Yuen South or even North NT or Northeast NT. Do you have any numbers to tell us what will be the growth in traffic demand with the increasing population and whether the bridge can cope? Ms. Poon, in the supplementary paper, we have pointed out that in our feasibility study, we will be looking at whether or not we need to plan for a link road between Ching Yi and Lantau. So this will also be considered in the study, yes. I still have some time left. Of course, we support this project or study, but we already have 3 at the moment. For NT East, I hope you will also conduct a study as soon as possible. The section of total highway between Tai Po and Sha Tin, because we're relying on this just the total highway alone. So I think you should start to look into that problem. Dr. K.K. Kwok, 2 minutes. Chairman. Well, the papers have been given to us, but I don't think they've answered the question. In their reply, they're saying that this may have to supplement the 2030 plus study. The 2030 plus, for that we will need to have formal consultation before we plan the alignment. Before you make any decision in respect of 2030 plus, and we don't have extensive discussion yet within the community. So the discussed Route 11 is actually meaningless. As you have shown us, you cannot draw the alignment. You just arbitrarily draw this link road between Cheung and Lantau. And I think this will only further aggravate the traffic congestion in Cheung. And for the Tai Lam Tunnel now, the toll is $44. For Cheung Ma Bridge, there is also a toll. If you're going to charge a toll for Route 11 as well, nobody will take that route. They have to pay for the Lam Tai Tunnel or the Tai Lam Tunnel and pay another toll, whether if they go through the Cheung Ma Bridge or the link road between Lantau and Cheung. Eventually, one may have to pay $100 per trip. So all these are made up, I think. Why don't you admit that you're trying to create a fait accompli so that after you've built Route 11, you will proceed with East Lantau reclamation? And secondly, there are two solutions you can consider. First of all, when the government take back the Tai Lam Tunnel, they can reduce the toll so that more residents can benefit. And secondly, if you want to help Yuen Long on NT West, well, our railway is already saturated. We should build another railway instead, linking it with the urban area, rather than come up with this Route 11. At the beginning, we've already pointed out that Route 11 itself is necessary, and there is no question that the East is not part of the East Lantau metropolis. So for the feasibility of study for Route 11, we would like to have your support. Well, you've not answered my question. If you want to resolve the problem, why didn't you pick those two options, Ms. Poon? Regarding the idea of a Tuen Mun Tsuen Wan railway, we've already explained previously that the population size, no, not Tsuen Wan Tuen Mun. I'm saying a direct rail link from Yuen Long to the urban area. You've not answered my question. You've been talking about the northern link. I think we talked about this the last time already. I think this was Dr. Kwok's proposal. Sorry, let me try again. Time's up already. Please be brief. If Mr. Kwok is proposing a brand new railway link linking up Northwest NT to the urban area, for this railway in the 2030 railway strategy study, we will look into that possibility. Chairman, I've said very clearly already that you are jumping the gun. The 2030 plus is the more important plan. So why is it that before you complete the major transport plan, and now you are saying that you want to build Route 11? $80-odd million is not a small amount of money. If after you finish the 2030 plus study, the conclusion is that you don't need to build, Route 11, then the money will be spent in vain. Why don't you wait until you've completed the 2030 plus study, after you have the broad picture, before you come back and apply for funding for Route 11? Dr. Kwok, to be fair, they've answered the same question many times already. They've repeated again and again that for the development in Northwest NT, we need to build roads. Well, as to what other slip roads we should connect with Route 11, for example, as you suggested, linking up, with Kowloon. I think that should also be considered. Well, the truck will only go in but not come out. Now, in that strategic study, you need to build one more bridge, right? The scope is different. If you just look at Route 11 without considering the impact on Ching Yi and the impact on the traffic from Ching Yi to Kowloon, why do you only look at Route 11 in isolation? No, I don't think they have. Well, for the 2030 plus, the overall, after that study, they may build more roads, but it's not logical. The approach is not logical. Well, I think we may have different opinion regarding the question of logic, but at today's meeting, I think they have already answered the question. Tanya Chan, third round, 2 minutes. Chairman. At the last meeting, we said we want to look at the 2030 plus. I have here something which is put onto the internet in December. It's produced by the CDD, a technical study on transport infrastructure Kennedy Town on Hong Kong Island. It's for connecting to the Lantau metropolis feasibility studies. This is the East Lantau metropolis.
I understand that at the moment only the executive summary is available on the internet, but there is a diagram 2.3 initial concept for connections to ELM. That is the East Lantau metropolis. It doesn't specify the alignment of Route 11, but you can see how people are linked. So that after going to Lantau, you need to find other ways for them to leave Lantau. You see many arrows pointing here and there. Dr. K.K. Kwok just now asked a similar question. I understand you are going to assess the alignment, but I want to know whether you will consider Lantau as a whole on the connecting road, or just a specific point of linking Lantau with the urban district, because like the other member mentioned, they'll be trapped in Lantau. They need to find another way out instead of making a detour. Last time, Mr. Ben Chan, and at this meeting, Mr. Lau Kwok Fan also mentioned the serious traffic congestion along Chiang Mai. So is it the case that you want to connect Kennedy Town with the artificial island and also Lantau after the development is completed? It's not from me, it's from the paper. Who will take the question? Thank you, Chairman. And we've responded to it. Just now the member referred to the development in East Lantau metropolis. This study has to do with Route 11. Apart from bringing people to Lantau, if necessary, this study will also consider connection between Ching Yi and Lantau. As for the 2030 plus, the strategic study, that's another study covering a wider scope. Chairman, I ask, apart from looking into the road linking Ching Yi, whether they will consider other roads. I think for the connection, members have raised questions at the last and also this meeting. I think the administration has heard members' views, whereas for the feasibility study on Route 11, they need to take a rather comprehensive view on resolving traffic issues. And some members raised some very practical points. People using this road may not only wish to access Lantau but other places. So, I heard from the administration that the response is quite positive. They're going to consider these points in the study, but they're unable to give us an idea, the actual alignment today. I hope the government officials here can also give us a more concrete answer on whether the points raised by members will be included in the feasibility study. Chairman, I don't think my request is really overboard. I'm asking whether, apart from Ching Yi, they will consider the whole area. Say the cities, the urban districts, How will the connections be made? Please let them answer. Ms. Poon or Mr. Lam from Transport Department. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Chen, for her question. Be it the study on Route 11 or 2030 plus, the study comes with a scope, but we do have flexibility. As we responded last time, we will also look at the connection between Tseung and Lantau. Now, if we identify other needs in the course of the study, we'll consider how the needs can be addressed. For 2030 plus, it is a broader, more strategic study for the whole territory. It's a holistic study. And we also have the study on Route 11. And I believe that these two studies will be able to address members' concerns. Second time, Mr. Eddie Chu, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Now, quite a lot of members already asked questions on whether you're paving the way for the ELM, but I'd like to focus on another area. My thinking is this. Say for Tuen Mun Western Bypass, to Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok Link Road, to Chiang Mai Bridge. Why is it that in the eyes of the administration, these cannot help divert traffic? Because if we look at the letter you wrote to the panel on transport in June last year, with Route 11, without Route 11, for southbound traffic is 2,700 in the morning, and with the route is 2,500. So for Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok Link, it seems rather useless. My question is this: 2,700 and 2,500 in terms of the tolled rolls. Is there any assumption? Will it be toll-free? Do you have any presumption on tolls to be collected? Apart from that, many members also mentioned that the Chek Lap Kok Link Road is related to the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridge. So can you tell us what data set you're using? Because previously you told us that you were using data set in 2008. So were you using outdated data for the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridge to do your projection? If you take the latest projection, that the traffic volume would not be as huge for Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridge, would the result be different? Mr. Lam from Transport Department. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chu, for his questions. For Tuen Mun Western Bypass and Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok Link, if you refer to the alignment, they are more to the western side of Hong Kong, linking the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridge and the artificial island. Our estimation is that definitely it can help divert traffic, but it is somewhat different from Route 11. Because for Route 11, I'm sorry, Chairman, I don't have enough time. I need to interject. I asked a specific question. I asked about tolls. Have you considered? Have you factored this in? Is it because it's pricey, there will be less traffic, Mr. Lam? We do not have, we haven't thought about tolls yet. Mr. Ray Chan, third time, 2 minutes. Chairman, last year in the supplementary paper from the administration to the panel on transport, after completion of the project, the government projects that for the Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok Link and also the Chiang Mai Bridge, the number of vehicles will be reduced by 4,600. We ask where the traffic would go. It's a Chiang Mai Bridge, because if vehicles use Chiang Mai Bridge and Route 11, it may exceed capacity. And according to the administration's paper today, the study will also cover whether it is necessary to build a connecting road before the extra traffic flow. If there is, it may not be cost effective to build a link road to the Chiang Mai Bridge. And in the 1998 feasibility study, we found another way. For Chiang Mai Bridge, the traffic volume will also be reduced. That is to say, if the route is directly connected to Hong Kong Island. In paragraph 8.1 of the feasibility report in 1998, there was a recommendation for Route 11 to be connected directly to the island. And back then, the government also recommended having a container terminal in Lantau. And then Route 11 was supposed to allow container trucks to access Lantau, and also a tunnel that to access the container terminal in Lantau. In recent years, however, the government recommends building an artificial island. Again, there are connections to Lantau, the artificial islands, etc. That means the purpose of Route 11 is to reduce traffic along Chiang Mai Bridge. So if the findings of the feasibility study of Route 11 is that it is not cost effective, will there be other ways for the administration to ensure that Chiang Mai Bridge will not exceed its capacity? The time is up, but Mr. Lam, your response. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chan, for his question. Very succinct reply. I think members are concerned whether Route 11 will bring in a lot of traffic, causing an impact on the Tsing Yi Lantau highway. According to our papers, for the eastbound of Tsing Yi Lantau highway, during the morning peak hours, we still have capacity. As for traffic volume growth in the future, this will be ascertained through our study. And whether additional roads will be required to connect Tsing Yi with Lantau, this will also be covered in the study. So on the whole, through this study, we hope to find ways to address existing traffic issues. Next, Mr. Ban Chan, third time, 2 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. For Tsing Yi Lantau highway eastbound, you just said that there is still some capacity. But as you may know, after an addition of 200,000 plus population in Tongchong, definitely the capacity will be reached. All along the bridge and the highway is saturated. There is a need, therefore, to kickstart the feasibility study of Route 11, which provides another connection. For Yuen Long Tuen Mun, over the past decade, because of planning efforts, the population and demographics have substantially changed. As a result, there is an urgent need to conduct the feasibility study. I think it's come a bit too late already, and members have already expressed their wish in terms of how the route is to be used, and that the Tsing Yi Lantau highway should be made toll-free, etc. We have given you a list of our requests. I hope that your feasibility study will also cover all of our concerns. I think this will suffice. If you ask for data, if you ask for figures, estimates, I don't think they will be comprehensive anyway. So I am not going to ask for concrete figures like other members do. I don't think this is practical. On the contrary, I'd like to ask about the blueprint, how you're going to disperse traffic in NT West. Give us a holistic plan, and then you should also give members time, and members should allow them to initiate the study as soon as possible instead of dwelling on figures. Mr. Ban Chan's views are very clear. Next, Mr. Eddie Chu, third round, 2 minutes. Chairman, I need to dwell on certain figures. Just now I was referring to Chek Lap Kok Tuen Mun link. The problem is it's not yet commissioned. So even before it's commissioned, you are talking about a new road. And I would like to refer to a paper in 2013 at a PWSC meeting when that you proposed to use $40 billion to build a link road. In paragraph 6A, according to your paper, you said that the effect will be to increase the capacity of other connecting roads so as to accommodate more traffic and to divert traffic. So that's to divert the traffic in Tin Khao Bridge. Show us a report card. How much traffic do you have in mind that will be diverted? Can you give us some figures in your study in 2013? If you haven't the figures ready, and if you ask for the funding for this study, and then the other road is not commissioned, and then you say that it's still not enough, you need Route 11 as well. Well, it's not convincing. This item will be endorsed anyway, but still, before submitting to the FC, about Chek Lap Kok Link Road in 2013, you came to PWSC for another funding application. We need figures.
Mr. Lam. Thank you, Mr. Ji. The Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok Link, I think our observation is that even if it were built and it's commissioned, including the Tuen Mun West bypass, actually by 2036, it will not result in the Tuen Mun Highway, Tai Lam, and the Tin Khao Bridge not reaching saturation. So we need to conduct a study so that they can, help, supplement the Tuen Mun Highway and Tin Khao Bridge in diverting traffic, going towards Kowloon. Claudia Mo, thank you. Well, I have a very bad feeling. The government has this idea that we need to conduct a feasibility study, and they are asking for close to $100 million so that they can conduct this feasibility study. What do you mean that they are going to proceed with this study? But regarding the alignment of this road and how much the project will eventually cost, we're told $22 billion before. Now it's we don't even know whether it's $44 billion will be enough. And we asked them for these numbers, and they're not willing to give us, concrete numbers. So it's like Hong Kong has just gone through the Second World War. Where there is an urgent need for redevelopment, and we must proceed with this route. You are spending close to $100 million on a feasibility study, and then you say we've already committed ourselves, we must go ahead with this project. Your biggest justification is that there will be close to 260,000 additional people who will be living in Hung Shui Kiu and Yuen Long for the new population moving in to these areas. Are these new immigrants or domestic migration, people who originally live in Happy Valley and Wan Chai moving to the new territories? I don't think you should just look at the fertility rate, but have you also considered the fertility rate or the birth rate? that is, there will be 260,000 additional people. I mean, the increase in population. How did you arrive at this projection? Thank you. In paragraph 7 of the paper, we are saying that in Hung Shui Kiu, new development, and Yuen South, and our plans for these new development areas, when the development is completed, and when people start moving into these new development areas, there will be growth in population there and new employment opportunities. I don't think you've answered my question. I asked him whether we're talking is internal migration, talking about the current population, or are these new immigrants, or are they increasing population due to additional births? I think there is a projection. You have projection for the population and employment, TBEDM. So there are 450 odd, small districts in Hong Kong, and they, therefore made their feasibility studies, based on that. Now you are telling us basically it's internal migration. Like I said, people who originally live on Hong Kong Island, Happy Valley, and so on, move into new territory. Is that roughly how you did your calculation? Some would be, in domestic migration. Some would be new immigrants. So we will look at the overall growth in population before we. Okay, I'll ask my question for my next round, if you don't mind. Some of the growth in population is due to immigration. Some would be due to internal migration. What is the percentage? So you're just giving us a rough number of 260,000. Well, in that case, Ms. Mo, we may need to convene a special meeting at the panel to ask the government to explain to us how they work out the TBEDM. I don't think today we'll be able to really, discuss the principles regarding such projections. But Chairman, this projection is the most fundamental for the Route 11 project. Of course, they would have such projections first before they conduct any feasibility study on traffic improvement. But if you ask questions about population policy, population numbers, I don't think the PWSC. I'm not asking about policy here. I just want to ask for the 260,000. Where did these additional population come from? I don't know whether the population, the department has any additional, supplementary paper on this. We'll go back and consult with the planning department. Yeah, please give us that paper. Mr. Wan Siu Kin, 4 minutes. The DP's position is that we don't have strong objection to this feasibility study. Colleagues ask many questions. Chairman, you an engineer yourself, I think you would know that these questions are valid questions. And we used such data when we, want to carry any projects. And I don't think we've been given satisfactory answers. I will not deny that there will be population increase for Northwest NT, but could the government be more specific? Claudia Mo talk about 200-something thousand, that's only Hung Shui Kiu, but we don't have any detailed breakdowns. And as members ask questions, Chairman, I hope you understand that, once bitten, we are twice shy. There are too many mega projects. Once they have been started, they get out of control, and the government will come back and tell us another story. So we have many such examples before, and some organizations have expressed concern that the government is actually using this, as a pretext. The ultimate aim is the East Lantau metropolis. So could the department give us more specific data so that you can allay our concerns? Otherwise, you say that you're saying that we're asking these questions, asking with data, is, making things difficult for the government. But I'll be brief. The several questions asked just now, well, I think I have some concern myself as well regarding the traffic flow of the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge. The landing point will be in West NT. Now, what is the traffic impact assessment? So far, we don't have any detailed report in that regard. NEG also asked two important questions: the Tuen Mun Chelap Kok link and the Tuen Mun West bypass. The government is assuming that these routes have no functions, and they told us that they will not be able to relieve the oversaturated traffic volume. But by how much? But we all know that after you finish your study, there's still work to be done. So, Chairman, I'm concerned about the traffic generated for the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge, the Chelap Kok Link Road, and Tuen Mun West bypass, and how can we just say that there's still such a strong need for Route 11? Could you give us the data? I'm also worried about the impact on Ching Yi. Some colleagues also would drive to Ledgeco from NT West. Every day from 7:30 to 9:30 is very congested. Before we pass through Ching Yi, it's already very congested. So could you give us more data so that we know we can be convinced that what you have planned will really be able to resolve the problem? Mr. Lam. Thank you. First of all, the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge. I don't have any information that I can share with Mr. Wan offhand. Can you provide the data information before we go to the FC? Perhaps you can let Mr. Lam finish first. The design of that bridge. Certainly, we have definitely carried out a traffic impact study for Route 11. The data that we are now providing have already taken in consideration the current roads, including the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge. And after we've carried out the analysis, we believe that we need to conduct a study on Route 11 so before we can cope with the development for NT Northwest. I think many questions have been asked already, and our colleagues from the departments, I think, and the answer basically is this: that is, the relevant roads and so on, the traffic will further increase the loading on Route 11. I think that should be covered in the study. But today, if members ask the administration to provide information offhand, it would not be possible. And I don't think it serves a useful purpose if they were to supply supplementary information. So if they spend $80-odd million in the feasibility study, and if so before they proceed with the study, there is at least some primitive state data regarding the primitive state. Could they provide us with such data so that we have the confidence when we approve the funding application? At these two meetings, the concerns expressed by members regarding Route 11 and whether or not we can relieve the congestion or whether we will further increase the loading, could the administration give us a report so that we can have a better idea as to why we need to build Route 11? Could you do that? Can we deal with it that way? But I don't think it's possible to go into too much details. Otherwise, we would already have the findings of the feasibility study. Exactly, this is because we need to spend tens of millions of dollars to engage a consultant to carry out that study. All right, could the administration please, adopt this approach? Jeremy Tam. Eddie Chi has looked up a PWSC paper in 2013 when the administration asked our support for the building of the Tuen Mun Chalapkok link that was costing $40 billion. But they applied for funding. One, they said that the Tuen Mun Chalapkok link, once completed, will play the following functions. One of which is to further, relieve the traffic congestion. Whether it's Tuen Mun Highway, Tinkau Bridge, Ching Yim, Lantau, road, and so on. 2013 was just a few years ago. Back then, you said that you would be able to further, relieve the traffic congestion. Why is it that a few years later you say you can't do that, and all of a sudden you say you want to build Road 11? When you came to this council and applied for funding to build the Tuen Mun Chalapkok Link Road, was it that you already have the plan to build Road 11? Or is it that you have no plan to do that then? If that case is really strange, what has happened in the last few years and all of a sudden we now have the need to build Road 11? Before they answer the question, well, I like to say that many members have asked similar questions. Chairman, I want them to answer my question. Either you can use the time to make your statement. I'll give you the time. Was it whether or not those roads can relieve the traffic congestion, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to build other new roads?
So that's my observation after hearing from members. But anyway, administration's response. Well, we already answered this question at the moment. After the Tuen Mun Chalapkok link is commissioned, even with the Tuen Mun Western bypass, we're talking about 2036. And Tuen Mun Highway, Tai Lam Tunnel, and Tinkau Bridge at peak hours, the traffic congestion is really serious. And that is why we need to start a feasibility study now. So that's 2036. But 4 years ago, in 2013, you also sought funding. So taking things back 4 years, by 4 years, does it mean that just within 4 years from 2013, all of a sudden, traffic growth increased substantially? Say, if it's 2032 instead of 2036, are you going to tell us that traffic is very smooth? We are just talking about 4 years ago, Chairman. I'll ask the government official to respond to you. I've already given my answer. I'll defer to Mr. Lam from Transport Department. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Tam, for his question. For Route 11, we explained that it is for 2036. The predecessor of Route 11 is in fact Route 10. And we previously explained to the Legislative Council that this is a long-term project. That means it will have to tie in with future developments. So when you apply for funding in 2013, you had in mind Route 10, right? At that time, it was called Route 10. It was a long-term proposal that we had in mind, and we would also consider district developments. So why didn't you include this in your funding application in 2013 about diverting traffic? It also included Route 10, which later disappeared. Ms. Poon from Deputy Secretary, can you please supplement for Route 11? And that is the former Route 10 in 2007. When we briefed members of the transport panel in 2007, we already explained that this is a long-term solution. Ms. Claudia Mo, third round, 2 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, of course, you from the engineering profession. You may have your own opinion, but it's not really, you don't give people good perception if you just interject like this. One may perceive that you're trying to tip off or help the government officials answer our questions. And this is my perception and my suspicion, and I'm not alone. And you are seeking the commitment of, close to $100 million, or at least $80 million for a single study report. So when you engage a consultant, will it be done in a one-off approach, or will there be separate consultants? Or would it be truncated into different segments? Who will take the question? Mr. Cheung Sha Wan, Director of Highways. Now we're talking about a major infrastructure project. Yes, that's what I suspect. So it will be carried out in phases. It entails a lot of items. For example, the alignment and also other aspects. So how many segments will there be? Because it seems to take a long time. It seems that 2021, you won't have the report ready until 2021. And by then, there will be the next term of LegCo, and you need to start the discussion afresh. The study is estimated to take 28 months. Now, once we have some preliminary findings, we will consult the public as well as the Legislative Council. 28 months means 2 years, 4 months. That's a long time. It can easily go beyond 2020. Ms. Mo, are you suggesting that they should compress the timetable so that the study report will be ready sooner? But it's such a major study involving so many people. It's on such a large scale, and yet you say that this is a single project not related to, say, the ELM or other things. I still find it quite strange. I don't quite understand your question. Well, that's just my comment. All right, comment noted. Ms. Claudia Mo just now made a point, but I want to explain that at times when I chair the meeting, I would like to summarize members' questions and put it in the form of a request to the administration. For example, members showed concerns, and I therefore asked the administration to prepare a report. And on some occasions, perhaps because some members may not be in their seats all the time when the administration answered their questions, I just try to facilitate communication between the two sides. Dr. Fernando Cheung, second round, 3 minutes. Chairman, you may think that this question is again a repeat, but they haven't answered us really. About the alignment of Route 11, according to them, the objective is to cope with the population growth in Hung Shui Kiu, Yuen Long, Tuen Mun, such that without Route 11, if they rely on Tuen Mun Highway to access the city, there will be a major traffic congestion, and that is why they need Route 11. However, if you connect this to Lantau, it's still not an urban district. I mean, to the north, you're connecting to Shenzhen, and then to the south, after connecting to ELM, it will go further down. So we can't help but suspect that it has to do with the artificial island. So it will be connected to the island, before reaching city center. And that's the normal way of imagining the alignment. And yet you don't explain to us clearly. You only say in the paper that this feasibility study does not cover the ELM, meaning that the artificial island will be something else. Well, this is supposed to be a transparent plan, and you're making it opaque. Don't try to deny it if your intention is so clear. If you want to cope with population growth in Yuen, Tuen Mun, Hong Shui Kiu, in terms of planning, at least you should make the district self-reliant. Say in Hong Shui Kiu, you mentioned the number of jobs, the population growth. Supposedly, people will work within the district, and you can't really explain away the fact that many will be accessing northeast of Lantau, because at the moment there's nothing there. I think you're concealing something. And in terms of transport, we have Chatlap-Kok Tuen Mun Link and Tuen Mun Western Bypass. They are being constructed at the moment. And once we have the two major roads ready, the connection will be complete without the need of a Route 11. It's a matter of principle which you have not been able to explain, and you have not really come clean to us. I must say I cannot accept such a funding application of a feasibility study that may very well cost $100 million. Dr. Cheung's view is clear because other members already expressed similar concerns. The administration has already given a reply. You may not be happy with their reply. And you talked about a number of major roads that may help ease traffic or bring in more traffic for Route 11. But everything is preliminary. This is not a conclusion from the feasibility study. They're just trying to explain why they need the feasibility study. I hope this will address the concerns expressed by Dr. Fernando Cheung. Next, Dr. KK Kwok, 1 minute, fourth round. Sometimes the administration differentiates Route 10 between Route 11. Sometimes you say that this is Route 11 is based on Route 10. And it's clear back then that it has to do with the Shenzhen Bay Bridge or the Western Bypass. And then we also have the Qingchao reclamation to the western part of Hong Kong Island. Just now, some members also showed you some papers. In fact, the CDD is already finding a spot, so to speak, in Kennedy Town, landing point. So can you make it clear? Through and through, Route 11, in terms of its similarity with Route 10, is the proposed reclamation in Kao Yi Chau. Otherwise, it would be completely meaningless. Who would take the question? Mr. Lam. A succinct reply. Thank you, Dr. Kwok, for your question. For Route 11, as explained just now, that's Route 10. In 2007, we already explained to the Legislative Council that it would be a long-term proposal. So for Route 11, you can say that this is an extension of Route 10. However, we need to take into account the current parameters and future population growth, etc., and also the positive effects that Route 11 will bring to the traffic situation. As explained just now, we have not taken into account the future developments in ELM, whereas for 2030 plus study, there will be a comprehensive review on the traffic and transport infrastructure in Hong Kong, including ELM. It will also come with strategic recommendations. Please allow me to follow up on his answer. Yes, please continue. The logic is this, Mr. Lam. Say, if I am a resident in Northwest NT, if I'm brought to Lantau, in order to access Hong Kong or Kowloon, and yet you tell me you haven't thought about other connections because it's not part of the projects, then if I am an NT resident, I would go crazy. You're treating me like a fool. You take me to Lantau with no access, no way out. What's the logic, Mr. Lam? Mr. Lam, your response? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kwok, for your question. Well, in fact, for northeast Lantau, once you arrive there, it will be connected to Lantau Highway. But you understand that the traffic is already heavy there. The road has reached its capacity. For Qingyu Lantau Highway, Kowloon bound, during morning peak hours, we still have capacity. What about 2036? By 2036, we need to find that out in the feasibility study. Use your brain, Mr. Lam. If even for the connecting road in Tuen Mun, it will be reaching capacity. What about this one? This definitely will exceed its capacity. There will be several dozen thousand more in the population. I need to pay tunnel tolls twice together with this route.
It's going to cost $30. Never mind Chiang Mai Bridge. Are you asking me to pay $100 to take this route, Mr. Lam? Assuming that I'm not a very clever person, I just want to talk to you about the tolls alone. Well, members already repeated the same point over and over again. Earlier, I think we already had a very clear answer. In the feasibility study, that is, they will consider all these road connections. If you suspect that it will only end in the northeast end of Lantau, or what the connection will be covered in the feasibility study. Well, it would mean extra mileage, and it's going to be very expensive. We shouldn't just allow them, $100 million, embarking on a study that will be a futile exercise. Mr. Lam, I'll let you answer the question so that Dr. Kwok doesn't have to repeat himself again. I think in our reply earlier on, we've already answered the question. In the study, it will not just cover North Lantau Highway. If necessary, we will consider the link between Lantau and Qing Yi. We'll reserve, room to deal with that. Michael Teen, 4 minutes. I'm sorry, Chairman, for joining the discussion at this late stage. I have a simple question. Hearing the discussion so far, some members are saying that there is a conspiracy. They question the alignment. You say it has nothing to do with East Lantau, that this is only to help relieve the traffic congestion in Northwest NT going towards the urban area. I've always been concerned about it since the West Rail started as a white elephant, but now it's so crowded and oversaturated. And that's why we need to build another railway. But the railway cannot resolve all the problem. If you have a mega development, any major development, you need railways and highways. My question is whether there are other solutions, other alignments, that is, other than Tuen Mun Highway and the Tai Lam Tunnel and Route 3. Are there other alignments to take people from Northwest NT to the urban area in Kowloon and Hong Kong Island? That is, how can you convince us that there are no other options, that this is that we must conduct a study, that is, we need to go through Lantau? What have you done to convince us that this is the only alignment option? Mr. Lam? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lam. We have conducted analysis, and we've seen that in 2036, Tuen Mun Highway, Ting Kau Bridge, and Route 3, the traffic flow, there will be serious congestion. We've also said that for Route 11, it is actually an extension of the former Route 10. Hopefully, it will be able to cope with the population growth in Northwest NT, and that's why we are proceeding with the study. And Mr. Teen asks whether there are other alignments yet. We have always emphasized that the current alignment, that is, doesn't go through Lantau. Do you have other possible alignments which do not have to go through Lantau? So people are saying that, you have to, cross the harbor twice. Is there any other alternative option where one doesn't need to go through Lantau? The proposal now is that Route 11 will go to Lantau. So far, we do not have any other proposal suggesting other alignments from Northwest NT directly going out to the urban area. Chairman, it's of time. Now the question is, you have to convince us that this is the only option we can consider, that is building the new traffic artery. But you say you've not considered other possible alignments, bypassing Lantau. That is very strange. You can tell us that you've conducted a study, the consultant told you that it can't be done because of the hilly terrain and so on and so forth, or that it's going to cost hundreds of billions. Have you done that? Thank you. We are proposing this project to LegCo, and it is premised on the former Route 10 studies, the findings of the Route 10 studies. And we have, proposed it, put forward this new proposal to deal with the traffic congestion in Northwest NT. As to whether there are other alternative alignments, at this moment I cannot say. And if necessary, we may need another project to deal with that. But what I can see is that the Route 11 option can more easily cope with the development of Hong Shui Kiu and Yuen Long South, because it's located in Northwest NT with a population of 500,000. So there is the incentive to propose this preliminary alignment. But in the end, for the forthcoming study, we will further, study in detail the proposed alignment and how much resources will be required. I believe that after 28 months or somewhere in between, when we have some outcome or results, we will come back and report to members. Mr. Michael Teen, second round, you have 3 minutes. Chairman, I'd like to propose a solution. Many colleagues are now querying why you need to go through Lantau. we are studying this feasibility study, Route 11 passing through Lantau. With all these queries, could your study also look into whether there are other alternative options, taking people from Northwest NT to the urban area without passing through Lantau? If your study includes that as well, then it will be worth the money. If in the end the conclusion, the experts say that Route 11 is the only option, then I think everybody would be satisfied. Any response to Mr. Teen's suggestion, Mr. Lam? Our observation now is that we now have a basis. I think we're proposing that we go from Northwest NT and going through Lantau. We will reserve some room. My question, would you consider, doing away with this premise, so that with the funding approved, you will look into other alternative alignment as well, and also the link. We'll certainly consider this again. Well, in that case, there will be less objection if you adopt my proposal. I believe that for any feasibility study, there should be options, other alternative options. So Mr. Teen's proposal, I believe, for any feasibility study, you should adopt an open mind. I believe the consultant, when they accept this order, will not just focus on one assumed alignment and proceed with the study. Well, Chairman, I asked a question. I think the premise is that they want to relieve traffic congestion in Northwest NT. Is this alignment the only solution? If you broaden the scope of your study, I think it would solve the problem. Well, I think that the response is also positive. We still have a few more members who would like to ask questions, and we should be adjourning at 7 p.m. I've also received 3 32A motions. I don't think we will be able to deal with these motions today. After members have asked the questions, and at 7, then we would have to adjourn. Alvin Young, 3 minutes. After you have finished, I think it's more or less time. Thank you. Pardon me for not hearing the earlier part of the discussion. If my question has repeated any points which I recover, I would beg for your indulgence. The Route 11 is expected to link up with Lantau. This would affect the traffic flow on the Macau trunk road. So I'd like to ask whether the administration can confirm that the Macau, bridge, could they give us information regarding the traffic, before we vote on this item? I think the same question has been asked before. Could Mr. Lam answer the question? Mr. Lam. Thank you, Mr. Yeo. In our paper, I think we already responded to that question. For the Lantau link, the traffic flow there, I think we will have to wait for the 2030 plus study before we decide on its alignment and the connections. But we've promised that in that study, once we have some preliminary or tentative findings, we will come back and report to members in this council. In the present study, we have allowed for some flexibility so that the consultant can also look at Ching Yi, linking up with the roads in Lantau. Chairman. Again, this is to do with the traffic volume. In early 2017, in the briefing for the policy address, the transport panel, Professor Cheung, the then secretary told members of the government has already started to come up with policy studies on how to cut down on vehicular traffic. Of course, this is a very broad strategy. Does the government have any relevant, initiatives that you can tell members? Because this, although the Lantau link is just one link, but it also is related to traffic, volume. Mr. Lam, do you have any information? Ms. Poon, we understand on the one hand we need to contain the growth in the number of private vehicles to relieve traffic congestion. At the same time, we also need to provide sufficient transport infrastructures to cope with the development of our society. So we can do it, on both tracks. Chairman, I just want to know whether, if the former secretary said there will be a study, could they give us the relevant information? May not be directly relevant to this item, but could you provide for such information, Mr. Lam? Now, we understand that containing vehicular traffic will help relieve the congestion. But in the forthcoming study, we will also be looking at the traffic assessment in 2036. There will be a comprehensive review or consideration. So the factor of containing the growth in vehicle will be also taken in consideration. Well, I think it's almost time for us to wrap up. The panel will meet again on the 15th of January at 4:30. So this is going to be a briefing. We expect that for 2017-2018, this is one of the briefing for the capital works projects to be vetted by the PWSC, and members may ask questions in respect of these projects. Of course, we won't need to make any decisions because it's not a formal funding application. It's just a briefing on the overall plan. As for this project today, we may need to continue with our discussion at the next meeting, and also we will need to deal with the 37A motion. The next meeting will be at 8:30 on January the 17th, just before our council sitting. So with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.